the hate army
Big
troll.
It's the hate army,
bro. Hate army.
Shout out to hate.
Good vibes to the
Shout
hate
out to
army.
hate.
Shout out to hate.
Shout out
Shout out to hate.
Shout out to hate.
Shout out for
Shout
hate.
out for hate.
Do I miss Street Fighter tournaments? Let me put it this way. When you're in the height of a competitive match and you're having a lot of fun, and it's going back and forth, and you win the first round, they win the second round, it's really great gameplay and it's close. There's nothing like it. And especially when you're doing that for an audience and the audience is really enjoying the level of skill that you're putting into it and the work that you've put in to get to that level, it's a really awesome feeling to compete like that. But the insane grind of doing that lifestyle is not something I would ever want to return to. I mean, there's a lot of travel, a lot of sitting around waiting for your turn, eating crappy foods because you can't eat good foods because you're rushing around to make sure you don't miss matches or to be somewhere on time. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, that lifestyle was a decade of my life traveling to play Street Fighter, and I enjoyed the experiences I had. I met a ton of people I never would have met if it wasn't for Street Fighter. I traveled a bunch of places I never would have traveled. But it's the problem is the grindy lifestyle. You know, when I was younger, I could do it. I would be so, number one, I'd be annoyed because, for example, I've been to Las Vegas 3 times. No, there was the original Evo. There was Evo 2005, Evo 2006, Evo 2007. I've been to Las Vegas 4 times in my life, and I have never fucking actually stepped foot on the strip. Why? Because I'm an idiot, and I was so focused on Street Fighter competition and performance, I just stayed at the venue, and that was it. You understand how dumb that is? How insanely fucking stupid that was? But I was an insanely stupid person. That's what I mean. Like, and that's the lifestyle that you have to live. If you're going to be a Street Fighter player, you have to be tunnel vision, hyper-focused, always playing, always focusing. That you live, breathe, eat, sleep, and shit Street Fighter. That's how you get good at it, right? When I remember Evo 2007, my last year that I competed, I went to all the different qualifiers again, and I qualified a ton of times again and had all these different fucking spots, okay? And I was practicing nonstop. When I went to Evo West, I went to Comic-Con for like 1 day. And outside of that, the entire other week, I was practicing with the Wolf Brothers to try to get better at the game, to level up. At Evo Finals that year in Vegas, literally the entire week, all I did was play fucking Super Turbo in hotel rooms. That was it. I mean, it's just such an insane grind of a lifestyle that I wouldn't want to go back to it. And it's expensive. You have expensive hotels, fucking travel, and food, and all of that shit. And then the bottom line is, when you go home, what do you have to show for it? Maybe today, because I'm a streamer, if I went and did well at a tournament, at least I'd be able to come back and my audience is welcoming me back and saying, thank you, it's a celebration that you did well or whatever. Back then, it was like not even worth it. Even if I did well, who gave a fuck? I literally qualified at like 5 Evo qualifiers one year. No one cared. No one gave a shit. I didn't win any money. No one cared. No one gave a fuck. So that's what I mean. Like, it's like such a grind for what? I didn't really get anything out of it. So, today it's also different, right? Like today it's also commercial and everything where you can basically get signed to a team, and now it's like your job, and you have a contract, and you have sponsors, and you have to be careful what you say. You don't want to upset the sponsorships and all of that, so you have to be very conservative in the way that you behave. And it's like the antithesis of what Street Fighter used to be. It really is. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know for a fact that when this documentary comes out about me later this year from Joon the King, I know that he delved back in time into the early Street Fighter days. He's probably got forum posts and fucking IRC chats and things that I did from 100 years ago. And you're going to see how I was basically purposefully being a toxic villain in the Street Fighter community. I saw myself as the heel of the Street Fighter community because it would build up hype for tournaments and things. Like, it was done on purpose, right? Today, I look back at that and I'm like, wow, that's really stupid. I would never do that. But that's how it was back then. Literally, Street Fighter was hype, rivalries, drama, like that. You wanted to build drama around a tournament so people would care about the fucking tournament, because no one cared about it because of money. No one cared about it because it wasn't being broadcast anywhere. So you had to build hype around it. So you'd have people showing up to the tournament just to see people play because of the drama and hype around it. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I used to do. But today it's like so different. You can't even do that, right? God forbid you say something wrong, and then they'll be like, oh, well, now you're this offensive person. No sponsorships, nothing for you, right? And that, it's pretty ridiculous how things have changed, right? So, I don't know. The Wolf Brothers. Wolfe, I believe their names, how you spell their last name. The Wolf Brothers. Graham Wolf and shit. I forgot the other brother's name. But they were both really cool guys. They were incredibly good at Street Fighter at the time. But that's what I mean. Like, when this documentary comes out, right? They're going to be like, oh, so here's this heinous thing Phil said. Here's the shit he talked. Here's threats he made. Yeah, that's what it was like back then. Like, that's what it was like in the community back then. It was common. It was a common thing. We were all acting like stupid heels on the internet to try to talk shit to each other to get people excited for Street Fighter. That was the idea. But today, when you look at it in modern context, in modern Street Fighter, you're like, oh my God, can you imagine if someone today was a shit talker like this? It was threatening and doing fucked up stuff. No, because no one does that today. The entire community's changed. When money and business came into it, everything got whitewashed, right? So everything now is completely different. Back then, you had to do that to even get people interested in the fucking events, Yes, I already told you guys I'm going to react to the documentary when it comes out. From what I'm to understand, the documentary is going to be more than 4 hours long. So I'm probably not going to react to the whole thing. I'm probably going to react to the parts that I find more interesting, like about my history, my early days as a YouTuber, anything about the nonsensical stuff about modern day, about fucking money and accusations that I'm a racist and fucking WWE champions nonsense. I'm not going to entertain any of that. There's no point. I've already said my piece about it. I have nothing different to say about it. I've already talked about it till I'm blue in the face. I'm not even going to give it more attention, okay? But the other things about me, my past, and all that stuff, I probably can give unique context to all of that and explain a lot about that maybe there's no information on the internet about it, but I can tell you stories and stuff. So that's the stuff that I feel like is going to be the interesting stuff to react to. So there you go. All right. So I'm probably going to cover like the whole first, 2/3 of the damn thing. I don't know if we'll go to the end. 4 hours must be a lot of filler. No, I mean, you're talking about someone who's going to go through my entire life history. They're going to cover early days of me being in the Street Fighter community and all of that. Early days of me getting interested in YouTube and being a YouTuber. How things were much different back then. Right? How I found my initial success on YouTube. It's probably going to cover the big controversies about Blip TV and the awful joke that I made that got me kicked off Blip TV and all of that drama from the early days. Then me actually coming to prominence on YouTube, getting signed with Machinima. The early days there, all copyright issues, money issues, all of that shit. Me moving across the country, getting into a relationship, how that caused a lot of problems for me in my personal and public life. The swatting. Right? All the hateful groups that rose up against me in like 2014, 2015 and started the whole movement of this is how you don't play and all the negative shit about me on the internet. Then all the years of me persevering through that, kind of having this change of content and philosophy in 2017, meeting my now wife, how things got to harassment with haters and things around that time period with that and shit like that. All the fucking escort saga. You know what I'm saying? Like we keep going. Just me in my head going through my history. 4 hours is like an abridged version for sure. You know what I'm saying? Like each story is just so crazy. And it's crazy thing after crazy thing that's actually happened to me. Right? So I think it's going to be fascinating. And yes, I do have some input on it. From time to time, Joon asked me some questions about stuff and I would give him my side of the story. And sometimes he'd be like, that makes sense in context. And other times he'd be like, well, I actually have information that contradicts what you're saying. And I'd be like, I'm just telling you from my recollections, this is what I remember, like I said, one perfect example of this that I know that's going to happen. Okay. I guess there's a situation where originally my first PC that I had bought was from the two guys who had also made me my website at the time for free. But then they charged me for the PC, and the PC was bunked, like things weren't working. The PC showed up damaged, and I guess there was drama around that. So he was like, Joon was like, asked me questions about it. He's like, so what was the cost of the PC? What was this? I was like, I don't remember. I could tell you what I think it was, but I don't have receipts for anything. You're asking me a question about something that happened like 12, 13 years ago. I don't remember, nor do I care. I haven't given thought to this in like 10 years. And then he'd be like, well, what you said is, it doesn't jive with the facts that I found out. And I was like, okay, I don't care. I know you'll probably, this will be a big deal in the documentary that that I lied or something. I don't care though. Like, it doesn't matter. It's something from so old in the past. Who gives two fucks about this? But that'll probably be like a juicy thing, right? Like, oh, Phil says this, but this is really what happened. I have the facts. I have the receipts from so-and-so who made the PC 13 years ago. I don't care. It's such bullshit. Water under the bridge from 100 years ago from someone who I don't talk about or to. I don't even remember their name. Like, why do I care, right? No, I remember what happened with the situation was there was a big falling out because the PC showed up and it was definitely not what I had been told it was. Like, stuff was misinstalled, there was damage to it, and I was upset about it. And I talked about it publicly. And at the time, I didn't realize that if I talked about it publicly, that would sick people on the people who made the PC, and it did. So now they're getting group harassed by my fans, which that wasn't my intention, but that's what happened. So now it blows up to be a big thing because I'm dumb and irresponsible, and I don't realize that that's something that shouldn't be talked about publicly because then people are going to get attacked for it. And then it ends up being something bigger than it should have been. And then what ended up happening was, like, years later, the fan site, like, I had a falling out with the guys, and I still wanted the website for myself. Well, they owned it. They owned the domain. They owned the site. They had been running this fan site for years for free, and they said, well, if you want it, you got to pay us for it. I was like, wait, what? You made the fan site for me, and now you're going to make me pay for it? And they were like, yeah, pay us for it. I was like, well, whatever. And I did. I paid them for it, and I ended up getting it, from them. But, I mean, it was a bad situation, and from what I'm to understand, for, like, years, one of those guys, like, really didn't like me and would say negative things about me in videos and shit. And that's one of the beginnings of the movement, that people didn't like me. It's one of the early origins of it. It probably was one of the earlier times when people turned against me. Because before then, people hadn't turned against me. They actually liked me. Overall, I was more known as more of a positive guy on the internet, or had a positive vibe associated with me. And that was one of the first times people say, oh, the community's turning against Phil for his behaviors, And now it's like, in retrospect, I wish that I didn't act like that. I should have just kept it all behind the wraps and never said a public word about it, because look what happened, right? But I didn't realize that back then because I was ignorant, right? Lord X Law says, will you ever tell us about Jaha? People keep spreading misinformation. Don't you think that's going to be in the documentary? I almost guarantee you that it will be, but it's just going to be a bunch of misconstrued stories about it. I'll tell you the absolute full story about it when we react to the documentary, and it's in there. I know it's going to be in there. I'll tell you exactly 100%, because that's 100% on me. And that was me back then, being a asshole in the Street Fighter community, and people didn't like me for very good reason. Like, today I look back at that and I'm ashamed of how I behaved, and I kind of agree with the people who didn't like me back then, because today I'm not that person. I could see how stupid I was back then. And I agree that, that I deserve to get my ass beat for the things I said. We're going to get to it. I told you, I will be as transparent and honest as I can be about all the things from my past, as I always usually am, right? When it's pertinent, when we're reacting to the documentary. There's no point in bringing up insanely old stories on a random unrelated stream, right? At the same time, there's some things I'm not going to touch. Like I said, anything to do financially with things in the last, like, 4 or 5 years that is no one's fucking business, and it's all this insane speculation and nonsense from people who don't like me trying to say harmful things and shit, I'm not going to even touch that. There's no point. It doesn't affect anything. It has nothing to do with anyone. And quite frankly, it just pokes the hornet's nest again. You know what I'm saying? So we've stayed out of that drama, and that's what I'm not going to address. So it'll be like, I think, like, the first 3 hours of the documentary will all be okay to react to, and then I might be skipping most of the end of it until we get to maybe, like, the last year, like maybe the side scrollers interview and onward. Maybe I'd go to that, and that's where we would pick up or something like that.
These contributions are mandatory. Tipping me helps me more than anything.